"We don't need a mama's boy. You'll slow us down," the crew leader spat, and then they left Michael Torres bleeding in the wreckage to die. Michael lay half-conscious on the cold metal floor of the crash site, his body numb from shock as smoke billowed around him. His mind raced with memories of his mother's gentle hands treating wounds, her soothing voice calming fears, and the way she always said he was strong because of how much heart he had. But now, there were no comforting words to ease his pain. He opened one eye cautiously, blood clouded it over, but through the haze, he saw that the others had taken everything useful: medkit, all food supplies, weapons. It wasn't fair. They were supposed to be a team, a family of sorts on this long haul out from Earth's orbit. But in moments like these, their shared humanity seemed secondary to survival instincts and primal fears. With sheer willpower, Michael forced himself up, using the remains of his seat, ignoring the pain slicing through him with each movement. His muscles screamed for rest, but there was no time for that now. He had to find a way off this God-forsaken planet or die trying. Crawling out from under twisted metal and broken cargo crates, Michael's gaze swept across the wreckage of what used to be his home in space. Each breath felt like it burned inside him. As he assessed his condition, a sprained ankle, cuts all over, a few deep bruises, knew help wasn't coming anytime soon. Suddenly, there was movement out of the corner of his eye, something dark and feral watching from behind an overturned crate near the edge of the wreckage. Heart hammering in his chest, Michael's eyes narrowed as he tried to see better. Was it another survivor? A predator? The creature, your alien, darted back into cover before he could get a good look at its features. That brief glimpse was enough to tell him this wasn't Earth anymore. Everything about the forest beyond felt primordial and alive, even dangerous. Michael gritted his teeth against the pain, determined not to give in now when every cell in his body urged him to lie down and let unconsciousness take over. He had been called a mama's boy for his gentle nature, but this gentleness was what saved lives, especially here, where brute strength wouldn't matter as much as knowing how to survive. Gingerly pushing himself up against the nearest wall of metal debris, he started moving forward toward the dark expanse beyond the forest. If there were others out there needing help, or if anyone else had survived this crash, then it was his duty to find them, despite what they thought about him back at the launch station on Earth. The air outside held a chill that seemed sharper than anything Michael knew from home. He shivered, not just because of the cold, but also due to residual shock. Yet amidst all the fear and loneliness creeping into every fiber of him, one part remained fiercely alive: his resolve. He had always been there for others, bandaging cuts after accidents in space, or making sure everyone ate properly on long voyages through nebulae, and now he would be there again. For himself first, then for anyone else who needed aid here amongst the ruins of their vessel and this new world's dangers. As Michael stepped out into the heart of an uncharted wilderness, his eyes darted around warily, while keeping one hand ready to pull back any stray branches or thorny vines that might trip him up. The forest seemed alive in ways he couldn't quite grasp, yet shadows moved within them as if hiding secrets far older than humanity itself. A soft wind whispered through the treetops, carrying with it a scent unlike anything Michael had ever smelled before, a mix of earthy musk and something sweetly spicy that made his mouth water faintly. Hunger gnawed at him, but he pushed past this urgency. First things first, staying alive meant finding shelter soon. Just as dawn began to paint the sky in hues of pink and orange, Michael stumbled upon a small cluster of trees offering some protection from predators or harsher elements. With trembling fingers, he set about trying to fashion himself a makeshift lean-to using branches and leaves he gathered nearby. His hands trembled, but his mind remained focused. Hours passed as Michael worked silently, amidst the growing light, until finally satisfied that it would keep him dry if rain came during nightfall, he curled up inside, feeling both vulnerable yet strangely at peace with this new reality, encroaching around him like an ever-shifting dreamland of potential dangers and undiscovered wonders. As exhaustion pulled at his eyelids, threatening sleep's welcome embrace, one thought burned through every ounce of his being: I won't let them down. Michael's resolve hardened as he fell into fitful slumber, surrounded by nature's raw beauty, and uncertainty surrounded yet not truly alone in this place where the old ways were dying while new possibilities waited just beyond reach. And somewhere amidst all those thoughts, simmering beneath surface calm, lay an undeniable spark of hope that maybe, somehow, things would turn out all right after all. Morning came with a harshness unexpected by those unused to such alien landscapes. Light filtered through dense foliage, turning everything green, and dappled shadowy patches on the forest floor. As Michael stirred awake under his crude shelter, he felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. He was alive, but adrift in this strange new world. But survival wasn't about drifting anymore, it demanded action. So, pushing away doubts fueled by loneliness or despair, Michael began rumming through everything within reach for anything potentially useful: food sources like berries, though cautiously, bark that looked strong enough to weave into better shelter layers, and even tools he could fashion from debris around him. Then there was movement again off near the forest's edge, a flash of green amidst tree trunks. This time Michael stood up slowly, with a mixture of wariness and cautious curiosity guiding each step closer towards what waited just beyond his sight line. His heartbeat quickened, not out of fear, but anticipation tinged by caution, wondering if this encounter might change everything. As he drew nearer to the source of movement among dense foliage, Michael paused briefly, allowing himself another momentary glimpse back at the wreckage behind him before focusing wholly forward once more. The sound grew louder, a soft rustling accompanied occasionally by distant growls or snarled cries that sent shivers up his spine, but also spurred determination deeper within. Suddenly breaking cover, from its hiding spot stood a figure unlike anything Michael had ever seen: tall and athletic, long dark green hair interwoven with vines of leaves, eyes shifting between amber glows to deep forest greens as emotions flickered across expression. She wore tribal markings that seemed both ancient runes telling stories old beyond memory, combined into patterns unique upon her skin, like living tattoos glowing softly under morning light. This was no ordinary creature, but rather something far more profound, staring directly back at him with calculating gaze. Kurevesh, daughter of the chieftain of this Forani tribe, who dwelled within these forests for countless generations. The stars have sent us the gentle one, she spoke quietly yet firmly, as if reading his very essence through eyes reflecting all their wisdom and history. As prophesied, stunned silence hung between them, before Michael found himself nodding slowly, understanding dawning despite confusion lingering beneath surface calm. He hadn't come here to find hope. Instead, destiny had brought him face to face with something greater than any mockery back on Earth ever could have predicted. In that moment, surrounded by alien flora and fauna watching silently from every corner of this wild land, Michael felt a connection form stronger than anything he'd known before. A bond built not through shared origins, but mutual survival instincts forged in fire under stars far away across galaxies. And as dawn broke fully, revealing vibrant greens hues throughout forest canopy above, The chapter turned to Michael Kurevish. Kurevish approached with an air of authority that commanded respect. "We must take you back," she said simply. Michael felt his heart pounding as he followed her deeper into the unknown forest, every step taking him further away from the shipwreck and closer to a life beyond anything he had ever imagined. The journey through the dense jungle was arduous, but Kurevish led them with an ease that seemed almost effortless. She moved like she belonged in these woods, each stride deliberate yet graceful, as if dancing on nature's breath itself. Michael did his best to keep up despite the pain and fatigue dragging at him from his injuries. As they ventured deeper into the forest, strange creatures began appearing, some small and harmless, while others watched with sharp eyes filled with curiosity or wariness. Kurevish seemed accustomed to it all, engaging in brief exchanges that hinted at a deep connection between her people and this place they called home. When night fell, Michael found himself sleeping within an intricate tent made from woven leaves and bark fibers, provided by the Vorani tribe members who joined them along their path. The air was filled with soft murmurs of conversation in languages he couldn't understand, but sensed carried meaning important to those around him, now guiding his fate. In the early hours before dawn, Kurevish came to sit beside Michael where he lay on a bed made from thick branches and softer plants pulled together for comfort. Her eyes held not just concern, but also something deeper, perhaps recognition. "Tell me about your world," she said softly, her voice carrying both curiosity and respect. Michael began speaking haltingly at first, sharing stories of Earth, its cities sprawling beneath stars he once thought would shine forever above his home planet, the beauty found in ocean's depth, days and sky's heights, even mundane days spent cooking meals or tending gardens with a smile on face, knowing those simple acts could bring warmth into another's day. He spoke about how being labeled mama's boy back there had only made him stronger, teaching him resilience through empathy rather than violence. Listening intently without interruption, Kurevish nodded slowly, understanding something profound in these tales of humanity far beyond her own knowledge. By morning light breaking anew across forest canopy above them, she looked at Michael with newfound respect gleaming warmly from those shifting eyes. "Your kind may be different," she said finally, "but we see strength not just in what you do but who you are." And so began a journey of mutual discovery between two beings separated by vast gulfs, yet finding common ground through shared experiences and understanding hearts, each step bringing them closer together amidst uncharted wilderness, under starry skies above. Michael Torres blinked awake, his eyes adjusting to a world drenched in vivid greens and filtered sunlight that danced through the dense canopy overhead. He sat up from where he had fallen asleep among unfamiliar yet strangely comforting foliage, memories of Kurevish's approach still fresh in his mind. "Follow me," she had said simply, her voice tinged with urgency that spoke volumes beyond mere words. And so Michael found himself trekking through a landscape as alien to him as the creatures lurking between the trees, or perhaps more familiar than he cared to admit. The forest enveloped them like an embrace of secrets and ancient wisdom. Kurevish walked ahead, her movements graceful yet determined. Her green-tinted skin seemed to blend seamlessly with the verdant surroundings. Every step she took spoke volumes about the connection between this tribe and their homeland. Michael hurried behind her, his heart pounding not just from exertion, but also an overwhelming sense of awe mixed with fear. The journey deepened into a maze of intertwining vines and towering trees adorned with flora that seemed to breathe life in ways he had never encountered before on Earth. Strange birds called out sharp notes as they flew by, small creatures darted between bushes, their eyes glinting curiously at Michael's presence, or perhaps fearfully. As the day wore on, more of Kurevish's tribe joined them, each bringing with them a silent respect and caution toward this unexpected visitor from beyond stars. They carried supplies woven together in intricate patterns, setting up shelters made of leaves and bark fibers along their path during brief stops to rest. Each member moved like dancers through the forest, their every action harmonizing perfectly with nature's rhythms. The air was thick with conversations he couldn't fully understand yet. There was a sense of camaraderie among them that transcended language barriers. It felt as if these beings were speaking directly from heart to heart, sharing knowledge and care without needing words to convey it all. By nightfall, Michael found himself tucked into one such shelter, amidst the sounds of the forest's nightlife, insects humming in patterns both rhythmic and chaotic, distant hoots echoing like songs carried by wind. Lying there under a patchwork sky filled with stars, unlike those he knew back home, he couldn't help but feel adrift yet strangely grounded somewhere between worlds where his past seemed far away. Kurevish appeared beside him soon after darkness had settled over the forest. Her eyes glowed softly in the dim light filtering through leaves above. She sat quietly for a moment before speaking gently into the night air. "Tell me about your world," she said, curiosity mingled with respect clear within those shifting orbs. Michael found himself taken aback by such an open request from one so commanding and powerful among her people. But there was something in how she asked that invited him to share freely, perhaps because it wasn't just a question, but also an invitation for understanding across distances vast, not only physically, but culturally too. With hesitant yet honest words, Michael began recounting stories of earth-bustling cities bathed under constant twilight due to pollution's grim veil, vast oceans where bioluminescent creatures danced gracefully beneath tranquil waves, quiet evenings spent cooking meals or tending gardens back home, simple acts that brought warmth into days filled with hard labor and daily struggles. He spoke about being labeled mama's boy among shipmates who mocked his gentle nature, how those moments had only strengthened him through empathy rather than aggression. Listening intently without interruption, Kurevish nodded slowly, as if absorbing each word deeply within herself, recognizing perhaps some universal truths in these tales of humanity far beyond her own experience. By morning light breaking anew across the forest canopy above them, she looked at Michael with a mixture of respect and something or profound gleaming warmly from those ever-shifting eyes. "Your kind may be different," she acknowledged finally, "but we see strength not just in what you do but who you are." That recognition lingered heavily between them as dawn painted the forest in hues that spoke softly yet clearly, heralding a new beginning born out of mutual discovery, amidst uncharted wilderness, under starlit skies above. But their shared moment was fleeting. Reality pressed firmly against Michael's back with undeniable urgency. Kurevish stood up, her voice carrying an urgent edge. "Come," she urged again, gently but firmly. "There is much to discuss." They moved swiftly along paths familiar only to her tribe members, who led them now away from the comforting shelter of night and towards an encampment hidden within thick foliage, barely visible during daylight hours unless one knew exactly where to look. Arriving at what seemed like a central gathering spot for this community, Michael was greeted by several other warriors, including Thrakos, the imposing figure who had scoffed earlier when Michael's fate hung in balance. Kurevish stood tall amidst them all, her presence commanding yet not overpowering, a leader respected deeply among those around her. "Tell us more about why you think this human can fulfill our prophecy," demanded Thrakos gruffly once everyone was gathered. Karavish met his eyes calmly before turning back towards Michael. He tends wounds without being asked. He gathers food for others before himself. You are gentle, yet strong in ways we do not understand fully yet, but sense deeply within him. Her words carried weight both as a challenge to Thrakos' skepticism and an invitation for all present to see beyond surface appearances. Michael felt eyes upon him from every direction, skeptical gazes, curious ones filled with hope, even fear among some who clearly held reservations about welcoming such a foreign presence into their midst. Yet there was also something else lurking beneath the surface, acceptance built on recognition of shared humanity despite vast cultural divides. As discussions turned towards how Michael might prove himself worthy according to Vorni customs and beliefs, emotions flared within him, fear intertwined with determination born out of resilience cultivated through years spent mocking yet finding strength in nurturing others. He knew he had much to learn about this new world, but also realized that perhaps here lay opportunities previously unimagined. In the heart of their encampment, where life continued despite chaos brought by illness plaguing them all, Michael understood clearly his path now diverged sharply from everything familiar, yet somehow felt right, as if guided gently yet firmly towards an uncertain destiny. And standing before him was not just a task, but also potential for transformation, both personal and communal. We need to see what you bring, Karavish concluded softly once more, her gaze steady on Michael's face, now marked by resolve rather than doubt from earlier days spent wandering lost amidst stars above his former world. And so began the journey of proving worth beyond mere survival, embracing challenges that would test not just physical endurance, but also soul's depth. To discover true strength lies within gentleness and care when faced with adversity. Michael woke to the soft rustling of leaves and distant calls of creatures he had yet to identify in this alien world. Karavish stood beside him, her long dark green hair catching the early morning light filtering through the dense foliage. "Come," she said gently, but with an underlying urgency that Michael felt coursing through his veins. "There is a sick villager we need you to examine." He nodded, still half asleep and trying to make sense of what was expected from him. As they walked deeper into the heart of their encampment, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of apprehension mixed with determination. The morning air was cool against his skin, and each step felt heavier than before as reality began settling in. Upon arriving at a makeshift hut near the center of camp, where patients were cared for, Michael noticed immediately how crowded it had become overnight. His gaze drifted towards one figure lying on a crude bed made from woven branches, a young Vorni warrior whose body was covered with an unappealing rash and who seemed to be delirious. "His name is Lurik," Karavish explained softly, her voice tinged with worry and hope. "He's been sick for days now. No one knows what it is." Michael approached the bed cautiously, observing every detail: the feverish sheen on Lurik's skin, the way his hands trembled uncontrollably despite trying to rest them by his side, the rapid breathing as if he couldn't get enough air. It reminded Michael of something similar from Earth, an allergic reaction caused by mold exposure. "Where did you first notice this?" he asked gently, turning towards Karavish, who had stepped back but remained attentive at all times. "We found him near a new well we dug," she replied, her eyes shifting colors with the emotion of frustration and concern. "He was closer to it than anyone else." A sudden idea struck Michael as pieces began falling into place in his mind. Mold growing around water sources wasn't uncommon back home. He needed to check where Lurik had been before becoming ill. Following Kuravish's lead, they returned quickly to the well site and circled slowly around it until he spotted something unusual, a small patch of fungus thriving on nearby rocks that hadn't been there earlier in his wanderings through this area. The realization hit him hard. Contaminated water from a poorly placed source was making people sick. "Water here is bad," Michael said aloud, pointing towards the well, but keeping eye contact with Kuravish, who seemed both intrigued and uncertain at once by such an odd claim for someone they barely knew might be true. Without another word exchanged between them, he set out to explore further while she stayed close enough to assist or ask questions as needed. They walked back through a dense part of forest until reaching the edge, where two paths diverged, one leading straight into their encampment and another veering off towards unknown territory beyond safety lines established by tribal boundaries. It was risky moving so far out alone, but Michael felt compelled nonetheless. His instincts were guiding him toward resolving this problem before more harm could be done. After minutes of searching, he found a small creek hidden behind dense shrubs, its water clear and inviting despite the surrounding chaos nearby village grounds. "There," Kuravish breathed, when she caught up to where Michael stood beside flowing waters that sparkled under dappled sunlight piercing through canopy above them both. "This must be source we move our people towards." The decision made swiftly yet carefully, they returned hastily but safely back with evidence of contamination and potential solution in mind. By mid-morning, the tribe was abuzz with activity, moving well further away from fungal colony and cleaning old one thoroughly before re-establishing new purified supply point closer to cleaner river upstream. Within days after these changes were implemented under Kuravish's careful supervision alongside Michael's guidance based purely observational skills rather than medical training per se, Sick began showing signs of recovery. Lurik too had made remarkable progress since being given clean water sources and proper rest away from contaminated zones affecting his health previously severely. Frokos watched all these developments warily, though couldn't deny visible improvement in overall condition among many stricken members, including young warrior, under scrutiny, initially believed to be mere coincidence or luck rather than foresight of prophecy itself. He grumbled audibly upon seeing renewed vigor amongst sick and injured around campsite, clearly displeased that such soft approach seemed successful against his own staunchly stubborn beliefs. "Luck, prophecy?" Frokos spat out harshly at one point during brief meeting called later in day, where progress reports were shared between Chieftain's daughter along with remaining elders present. "It's all nonsense. This human has no real power, just got lucky once or twice." To this accusation, Kuravish stood firm without flinching, but responded diplomatically. "Lucky may explain small victories, perhaps, but seeing bigger picture requires acknowledging wisdom beyond traditional scope sometimes." Her eyes shifted in hues of contemplation while words echoed quietly yet insistently around gathered space. Michael stayed silent throughout such exchanges, knowing better than inserting himself directly amidst heated debates amongst tribe leaders. Instead, he focused on ensuring new water sources remained safe and continued monitoring progress among recovering patients, thereby indirectly validating points Kuravish made without ever needing explicit statement otherwise needed. Days turned into weeks as life slowly began returning to some semblance of normalcy. Post-crisis phase brought about illness plaguing them. During quieter moments under starlit skies above, Michael often found himself alone contemplating all recent events and how drastically different this place was compared with Earth he knew well enough prior crash landing here. One such night, while sitting by firelight accompanied solely Karavish, who seemed more relaxed now amidst recovery process taking hold stronger, every day gone by since initial discovery causing widespread sickness, she finally spoke openly reflecting on changes observed recently. Michael, she began softly yet with noticeable sincerity lacking earlier skepticism present in dealings thus far. You are not just visitor anymore here. You bring something different. Her eyes shifted gently from emerald green towards amber, as if seeing beyond surface appearances to deeper truths beneath them all. And I think perhaps we must learn still more about each other's worlds. Karavish continued slowly, with careful consideration, before meeting Michael gaze squarely once again, not just medicine or survival techniques, but also underlying beliefs and values that shape us. He looked at her now differently, as well no longer merely strange alien leader overseeing odd human presence within tribe she led nor simple caretaker amongst ill villagers seeking cure for mysterious ailment plaguing them. Instead, Michael saw someone more akin reflection of shared humanity, despite vast cultural gaps standing between Vorani and Earthlings alike. And thus ends this chapter exactly where described in provided prompt. Karavish looks at Michael differently, known as a strange alien, but something much deeper, more profound emerging from interactions faced together amidst challenges brought unexpected but never unwelcome chance to transform lives irreversibly. Michael Torres stood by a small creek, his hands dipped into the cool water to wash away the dirt and grime that had accumulated on them from another day of tending to the tribe's sick members. The illness was slowly receding. More villagers were beginning to recover their strength with each passing hour. Yet as Michael scrubbed at a particularly stubborn stain on one finger, his mind drifted back to the night before, when Karavish spoke so earnestly about him and her people. "You are not just a visitor anymore," she had said softly, under the starlit sky. "You bring something different." He sighed deeply and turned around to find Karavish standing there with eyes that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, shifting from green towards amber, as if contemplating his presence anew. "Michael, I have been thinking about what you told me," she began, stepping closer to him without breaking eye contact. "I want to understand more of your world, values, and beliefs behind your actions here." He nodded slowly, understanding her request completely. "My mother taught me the importance of compassion and healing. That was how we lived on Earth," Michael replied in a low voice, as if speaking only for himself, yet knowing she would hear it clearly. Karavish's eyes softened further before they shifted back to their usual green hue, again a sign, perhaps, of her own internal reassessment. "Your mother sounds like an admirable woman," the Vorani leader said warmly, almost unexpectedly so given earlier tensions with Thrakos over Michael's role in saving them. Michael felt a pang deep within his chest at those words, and he couldn't help but smile softly as memories flooded back. His mother teaching him how to cook meals that brought warmth, not just through sustenance, but also heart, her patience when explaining the importance of caring for others, even if it meant being ridiculed for doing so. "She was everything good in my life," Michael admitted quietly. Karavish watched silently, absorbing his words with a thoughtful expression on her face. She then gently placed a hand upon his shoulder and squeezed lightly, as if offering silent support between them both, now bound by more than just survival needs under dire circumstances. but also mutual respect based on shared understanding of human kindness transcending cultural divides. The next day dawned crisp and clear, marking another milestone in the tribe's recovery process. As Michael worked alongside Kurevish organizing supplies for the new clinic shed set up dedicated to preventing future outbreaks like those that had plagued them earlier, both felt a deeper connection forming beyond mere survival instincts or strategic planning sessions with elders. During breaks from work tasks when everyone else was busy tending gardens or rebuilding huts, they would sit together under towering trees exchanging stories about their respective homes. Michael spoke fondly of Earth's varied landscapes, ranging from bustling cities to serene forests, while Kureva shared tales steeped in Vorani traditions tied deeply into nature and community bonds. Their conversations grew more intimate with each passing moment. Laughter became easier when discussing lighter topics, whereas summer reflections deepened mutual appreciation for resilience amidst hardship. It was during one such reflective pause that an elderly member approached, visibly distressed by something weighing heavily upon him. "Chieftain," he addressed Kurevish respectfully yet urgently, "the old one, he's not well." Fear flickered briefly across both young leaders' faces before they exchanged quick glances full of unspoken resolve. They followed the elder back towards a small clearing surrounded by lush greenery, where an ancient Vor, and he lay resting amidst natural beauty meant to bring comfort in his final days. "Father," Kurevish greeted gently as she knelt beside him, her eyes never wavering from his, even though color had drained significantly, now making it clear how close this stage of life truly was coming for their leader. "How do you fare?" The old chieftain managed a weak smile. He winced slightly at the movement before addressing both formally yet tenderly Kurevish, "My daughter, and Michael, the gentle one." Michael froze, heart racing despite himself, unsure what to expect from this sudden acknowledgement. "I wish only to see one last thing before passing," the chieftain continued with quiet strength still evident in voice, though body showed frailty of advanced age. "I want you both here when I do so." Nodding solemnly, without question, Michael moved closer until he could grasp Elder's hand tightly while listening intently as stories from long ago unfolded, tales painted through vivid imagery rich enough to transport mind back centuries earlier into times undreamed yet somehow familiar given cultural parallels between Vor, ways, and human traditions. "You have your mother's heart," the chieftain murmured softly, after a particularly poignant moment ended, leaving silence heavy with reverence shared amongst tree gathered together under vast canopy overhead. "I see it in you." Shock reverberated through Michael, eyes widening momentarily before settling once more upon old man grasping tightly onto life, even as grip weakened visibly now. "Kurevish told me," continued chieftain calmly yet matter-of-factly, turning slightly towards her then back again to Michael, "a man who honors his mother, that is the gentle one we needed." He fell silent after that final declaration, and breath slowed gradually, until eventually ceasing completely, as body relaxed into eternal slumber under watchful eyes of those present, Kurevish clutching him gently yet firmly while Michael held hand tightly, never letting go despite physical connection beginning to fade. Silence lingered heavily over gathering clearing, even though wind whispered through leaves overhead softly. Mourning loss felt deeply by all involved. Kurevish finally turned towards Michael after a long moment of quiet reflection, her eyes shimmering now with emotion that had been building throughout entire encounter. Grief mingled beautifully alongside gratitude and respect for humans standing witness to final breaths taken in this place, far away from home yet never truly alien and a more given bonds form. Thrakos, she spoke finally, breaking silence, as if knowing next part crucial despite reluctance inherent within task. He sees opportunity here now that I must lead tribe alone. Michael nodded, understanding fully, without needing further elaboration on threats posed by ambitious elder eager to seize power under pretext of ensuring stability following transition period ahead. Yet for now, amidst grief and reverence alike surrounding deathbed scene earlier, there remained deeper connections forged beyond immediate crises faced. And as night fell, bringing peace needed to process day's events, Michael found himself thinking once again about words shared long ago with Kuravish. You are not just visitor anymore here. Kuravish must now lead the tribe, and Thrakos seize his opportunity, ending exactly where described in prompt. As Kuravish and Michael stood amidst the silent gathering, a murmur of unrest began to ripple through the crowd. Thrakos emerged from the fringes, his imposing figure casting long shadows even in the dim light of dusk. His eyes were cold as he approached them, and for a moment it seemed like time itself had frozen. Kuravish, Thrakos said with a gruff voice that carried more than just words. There was an undercurrent of challenge beneath his tone. The tribe needs strong leadership. I'm the best warrior among us. Michael felt Kuravish's hand tighten on his shoulder, and he turned to look at her. Her eyes were fierce, but determined, a reflection of the mixed emotions she carried: sorrow for her father's passing, responsibility towards leading a fractured tribe, and perhaps some respect for Thrakos' challenge. Thrakos, Kuravish spoke firmly, the traditions are clear. In times of transition such as this, you may indeed seek to lead us. Her voice was calm, but carried authority, which surprised many in the crowd who had only ever known her father leading with an iron grip and a heart full of wisdom. Thrakos smirked, his eyes narrowing slightly. And how will you decide your champion? He glanced at Michael briefly before turning back to Kuravish, expecting some sort of weakness or hesitation from her side that he could exploit for his advantage. Kuravish's eyes met Thrakos, and she took a deep breath, steeling herself against the challenge. By tradition, she replied confidently, looking towards Michael with an intensity that both scared and warmed him simultaneously. It was as if she saw something within him, a strength born out of gentleness that others might overlook, but which held immense value. I choose Michael. A collective gasp ran through the gathered Vorani warriors and civilians alike. Many had mocked him upon arrival, labeling him a weakling from another world, incapable of surviving without their guidance or protection. But now, in this moment of truth, Kuravish's unexpected decision stunned everyone into silence. Thrakos laughed harshly at her words, his laughter echoing through the clearing like a mocking echo against reality itself. A human, the gentle one? You're making a fool out of us all. He shook his head dismissively, but did not lower his stance. Instead, he raised himself up taller in an effort to intimidate both Kuravish and Michael further. Michael stepped forward slightly at this, swallowing hard as memories flooded back his mother's gentle yet firm words before she had passed away years ago. Being gentle doesn't mean being weak. It means being strong enough to be kind. He remembered her telling him not to let others define his worth based on what they thought he lacked, rather than embracing all that made him who he was. Michael, Kuravish called softly, a hand reaching out to rest gently against his shoulder once more in silent support. You have proven yourself worthy, I believe. He looked down at her touch momentarily before nodding slowly and turning back towards Thrakos. The challenge stood clear now, the greatest warrior of their tribe versus one who had been mocked as useless not long ago. Yet there was a strange sense of calm settling over Michael. Perhaps it came from knowing what lay ahead might be dangerous, but also crucial to proving himself beyond mere mockery and scorn. "Thrakos," Karavish announced formally now, her voice ringing out clear through the clearing so that every person present understood fully who would fight whom, Toddy, and why. "If you wish to challenge my leadership in place of your own, then let it be known publicly before this tribe. Michael will defend me." With these words spoken aloud for all ears, Thrakos took a menacing step closer until he loomed over Michael, completely blocking out any light that dared shine through from above save what flickered across face, reflecting intensity within darkening eyes. "You think you can win?" asked Thrakos with obvious disbelief. "A mere mortal against the greatest of Vorani fighters?" Michael hesitated, glancing once more at Karavish for reassurance before meeting Thrakos' gaze head on, without fear, despite knowing he stood little chance physically compared to this beast of a man armed with claws and teeth meant only destruction. He did not flinch away, but instead met challenge eye to eye. "I will fight," Michael declared firmly, voice steady despite inward trembling rising up through muscles preparing themselves unconsciously for battle ahead. His hands tightened into fists at sides, as if bracing himself against inevitable blows coming his way soon enough. Thrakos snarled briefly, then laughed again, louder this time, almost maniacally. It seemed as though enjoying very idea of what he planned next. "Good. Let's see how gentle one fares when forced to kill." The arena had been hastily prepared within clearing near where Chieftain's body lay, now wrapped reverently, ready for final rites soon. Yet between Michael and Thrakos stretched a distance marked not just by feet walking towards each other, but also spirits moving into conflict, each side knowing what was at stake beyond mere personal glory or failure. Swords were drawn ceremonially, after brief ritual words exchanged acknowledging traditions surrounding challenge accepted openly now before whole tribe gathered to witness outcome. As blades met and clashed first time, Michael felt shock wave reverberate through his body from impact. Thrakos moved with practiced ease of seasoned warrior compared against novice humans struggling merely keep up, let alone counter attacks coming relentless. "Pitiful," roared Thrakos after each parry breaking or dodge forced upon him. His voice dripped contempt like acid burning holes into very fabric reality surrounding them as fight progressed further still despite initial setbacks inflicted occasionally by Michael's unexpected agility or necessity to survive thus far. Yet for every blow landed, another seemed poised ready follow shortly thereafter, each one sending shock waves pulsing through Michael's frame, threateningly pushing him closer toward breaking point, physically speaking at least. But it wasn't just physical limitations being tested here. Mental and emotional fortitude likewise stretched, taut, nearly snapping under pressure applied ruthlessly from all sides, until eventually Michael fell, or rather, he was knocked down hard onto ground beneath feet of Thrakos, advancing menacingly overhead, poised for finishing blow, already clearly visible, gleaming darkly threatening against light filtering through uppermost branches above where sky remained stubbornly closed off by thick foliage surrounding arena floor below. "Any last words, mama's boy?" growled Thrakos cruelly, blade held high, now ready to deliver final strike, ending fight conclusively one way or another. Michael lay on the ground, feeling his breath come out in ragged gasps as he stared up at Thrakos towering above him like a dark shadow about to unleash its final judgment. Each Ivorani warrior's blade glinted menacingly under the filtered light of the forest canopy, reflecting an intensity that mirrored the steely determination burning within those deep-set eyes. "You think you can win?" asked Throckos with obvious disbelief. "A mere mortal against the greatest of Vorani fighters?" Michael hesitated for a moment, glancing over at Kuravish standing on the edge of the arena, her green-tinted skin glowing softly in the dappled sunlight. She met his gaze with unwavering support and trust, an unspoken bond that fortified Michael's resolve to stand firm against Throckos's looming threat. "Throckos," he said calmly but firmly, "this isn't about winning or losing for me." The Vorani warrior snorted in derision. "Then what is it? A joke?" Michael shook his head solemnly. "No, it's more than that. It's a test, a chance to prove who I am and why the tribe needs someone like me." His voice was steady despite the pain coursing through him from recent blows. Throckos sneered. "And what is that supposed to mean?" "Warriors are important," Michael continued, his eyes narrowing as he focused on Throckos' chest, armor glinting faintly in the dappled light above them. "But so are healers and protectors of life, people who care for others instead of just fighting." A murmur ran through the crowd watching from the edges of the clearing, some looking confused or doubtful, while others seemed intrigued by Michael's words. "I will fight," he declared firmly, again, his hands tightening into fists as if bracing himself against inevitable blows soon enough. "I won not because of strength alone, but to show that real courage isn't about killing. It's about getting back up." As blades met and clashed in the arena between Michael and Throckos for what felt like an eternity, each side knowing all too well what was at stake beyond simple personal glory or failure. Swords were drawn ceremonially, after brief ritual words acknowledging traditions surrounding challenge accepted openly before whole tribe gathered to witness outcome. Sweat dripped down Michael's brow as he parried another fierce blow from Throckos, his muscles straining with the effort of maintaining defensive positions against onslaughts aimed at breaking him mentally and physically. For every strike avoided or deflected, another one seemed poised ready to follow shortly thereafter, each sending shock waves through Michael's frame, threateningly pushing him closer toward breaking point under sheer force applied ruthlessly from all sides. "Pitiful!" Throckos roared with contempt after each parry, breaking or dodge forced upon him. His voice dripped acid into the very fabric of reality surrounding them as fight progressed further still, despite initial setbacks inflicted occasionally by Michael's unexpected agility born necessity to survive thus far. Yet amidst chaos and violence, there existed a strange calm within Michael, something deep-rooted in his heart that refused to be shaken no matter how relentless Throckos's attacks became. He had faced mockery from shipmates back on Earth. He'd felt useless when stranded alone with Vorani tribe's initial skepticism glaring down upon him like icy daggers of doubt. But now, standing here amidst flurry of blades and shifting colors in Kuravish's eyes as she watched intently from sidelines, Michael knew differently. He understood what his mother had always told him: real strength isn't about winning battles with fists or swords, but rising again when knocked down by life's challenges. Throckos moved like a predator stalking its prey, muscles rippling beneath green-tinted skin as he closed in for decisive strike, aiming to end confrontation conclusively. With each step closer, arena floor seemed more slick underfoot, due combination of sweat and rainwater dripping through leaves above them, all preparing Michael's body, already trembling inwardly from sheer pressure applied externally. Yet despite physical disadvantage clearly evident now that even most optimistic among spectators could see coming next, there remained one thing Throckos underestimated spirit within gentle humans standing against him. As blade descended towards final blow, ready to deliver end of fight conclusively once and for all, Michael did something unexpected. "No," he said softly yet firmly, as Thrakos paused mid-strike, momentarily bewildered by interruption. "I refuse." "What?" snarled Thrakos, confusion mixing with rage in his eyes, now shifting shades rapidly from dark brown to violent red, streaks cutting across irises like slices of bloodied flesh beneath surface. "I won't fight you anymore," Michael explained calmly but resolutely. His hand reached out slowly towards Thrakos' extended blade, offering not challenge but peace instead. "We can stop this now if we choose." For a long moment no one moved, not even birds chirping softly amongst branches overhead dared interrupt solemnity hanging heavily over clearing like thick fog settling in before sunrise. Then suddenly Karavish stepped forward from crowd watching sea, loosely nearby her presence, somehow managing to cut through tension, holding everyone rigid within arena space itself. "Father's spirit would want this ended peacefully," she said quietly yet clearly, audible across distance separating them all. Thrakos hesitated. There was something in Michael's eyes he couldn't quite place. Peace. Acceptance. No fear at all. It made him pause, his blade hovering just above Michael, who looked up calmly back into those fierce yellow-green eyes of Vor, the warrior, standing victorious yet conflicted over what to do next. I cannot," Thrakos finally admitted after another long moment, lowering weapon slightly, though not fully sheathing it quite yet in case something changed suddenly, again unexpectedly between them. His confusion and doubt evident even through harsh exterior, for he'd built up around himself a symbol of power among tribe members here. Michael's eyes softened further, seeing hesitation mixed with inner turmoil gnawing away at edges of Thrakos' usual cold demeanor. "You don't have to," Michael said gently but firmly now, taking another small step forward, which caused others in crowd watching closely nearby, also shifting slightly, as if adjusting for new balance forming within arena itself. The human extended hand slowly towards any warrior standing above him, still armed and dangerous looking despite having paused attack sequence abruptly just moments ago. "We need warriors and healers," Michael explained softly but clearly enough so everyone gathered around could hear, without shouting words across clearing space separating them all presently. "Your skills protect us from outside threats, mine help mend what's broken inside tribe." Thrakos stared down at offered hand, thighs gentle enemy offering partnership instead of humiliating defeat somehow seemed far more daunting than any physical blow dealt earlier during heated exchanges between blades and flesh. After another long moment passed silently, stretching itself out over arena space like thick fog settling in before sunrise, Thrakos finally nodded once sharply, then reached forward himself, taking hold firmly around Michael's extended hand amidst hushed whispers spreading throughout watching crowd gathered nearby. "Agreed," he declared resolutely yet quietly enough so only those closest could hear words exchanged. Months later saw rescue ships arriving unexpectedly high above Vor, a forest clearing. Pilots spotting distress beacon broadcast faintly, still pulsing weak signal through thick atmospheric interference, despite passage of time passing since crash landing event. When crewmates were found scattered among various ruins and makeshift shelters dotting landscape, they looked starving, broken down, fighting amongst each other over remaining supplies, dwindling quickly under harsh conditions imposed by planet itself. Yet there in center clearing stood Michael, surrounded not just by alien tribe had come to call family, but also beautiful for any woman now, beside him, looking proud, fierce, protective towards human, who had become more than mere outsider or visitor here, amidst their midst. How? They asked, dumbfounded, staring from distant remnants of crash site back into green-tinted faces surrounding them all. Michael smiled warmly, eyes twinkling with shared memories and new understanding gained throughout time spent amongst foreign people instead of isolation imposed by cruel mocking shipmates, had once labeled him as useless weakling for caring tendencies. "My mother taught me well," he explained, simply yet deeply meaningful to those around watching closely, now realizing something important changing within group dynamic. Karavesh took Michael's hand, placing own warm green fingers alongside it gently, in gesture showing clear bond formed between them both over course past weeks, months, since fateful day challenge accepted openly here amongst foreign tribe. "The gentle one," she stated clearly to stunned humans watching closely now, nodding once firmly as confirmation before turning away, leading towards awaiting rescue ships idling overhead, still visible glinting faintly against backdrop of starlit sky above. As they walked together side by side amidst murmurs, questioning eyes following them from behind, Michael looked back briefly, meeting gaze of Karavesh, who smiled reassuringly, showing she understood fully what journey ahead meant for both humans now reunited, with fate somehow intertwined between two worlds, once so distant now closer than ever before thanks to unlikely circumstances and unexpected bonds formed. And in doing so, Mama's boy found a people who valued what he was, not what he wasn't, and in that acceptance, Michael had discovered his true home among the stars, a place where gentle hearts were celebrated alongside fierce warriors alike.